He did. He turned any type of bad situation into a funny situation. Made everybody laugh, lit up the room. He always lit up the room, wherever he was, wherever you were.
Now, when you were kids, did he tell jokes?
Never.
I mean, he was a born entertainer, and you know, there's a lot to be said for, you know, for bringing extra humor to something that's even already funny.
Everything everybody saw about Frank was Frank, and for me, I thought he was funny when he was serious, because he was very seldom serious, and when he really was really serious, I was rolling on the floor laughing. And he always said, now if I told a judge that, that'd be ground for divorce.
You know, Frank is a true people person, and I don't think that you could find a more people person than Frank. You know, he brought incredible amount of smiles to people's faces. You know, in the campground out at Paradise, he had a small black box, and in that black box was the old disappearing cigarette trick. He had the 3 ropes trick, and my family liked it so much that we asked him if he would possibly maybe do it in between tours, for the tours in the sales room, maybe go over to the clubhouse and put on an act or two. He ended up becoming our magician on Sunday afternoons for all the children and the owners. It was a great time. He is just a funny guy. You know, I'm not that funny guy. That's why I always had to have Frank with me, so the party would be funny, you know?
Oh, Frank was a love. Yeah, he always made you feel good. Even then, I used to laugh at his jokes, hear him over and over again, some of them, and I'd still laugh. And my husband was the same way. If you're the wife of a joke teller, you get used to laughing. He'd be our waiter, he'd be the cook. Well, first he'd be the maitre d', then he'd be the waiter, and then he'd be the cook, and then he'd be the server. So he played all the parts.
Yeah, people just flocked to him. They wanted to be around him.
Everything, everywhere you went, every restaurant you went to, every store, he would be kidding around and joking with people, and he always. And a lot of people think who is this guy? You know, hey, because he acts kind of goofy sometimes, but he would even want to get you more. You know what I mean? He would win you over in the end, no matter what. You know, a lot of times when people die, everybody's, oh, he was so wonderful. Frank, we have said throughout the years, what would we do without Frank? What would Tony do without Frank? Every family get together was not the same if Frank wasn't there. And there's a lot he couldn't be there. But when he was there, he was the first one in the kitchen, helping cooking, helping cleaning up, always making it fun, always having a game to do. You know, he'd kind of scan the room. If somebody was sitting over there, he'd come over and give them a pat, or come over and tell them a joke. It's like, Tony says, he must have been exhausted because he was always in tune. It's like his radar was always out.
He was definitely funny. He was persistent too, because I know that being around him for 21 years, I heard the same jokes a couple times, but you know, he would still push through and keep telling them until somebody laughed, and then that would fuel the fire. And he was funny though. He was quick on his toes, and that's what was the best.
All the time. He was so funny. He made me laugh a lot.
I think so. I think it came naturally, and he loved to see people laugh, and I think it was just natural, yeah. He was always going. We had many times that we'd go out and he'd just clown around with them, have fun. But you know what? We got the best service. We always did. They loved it, and he always took care of them. You know, he always tipped them well. So
it'd be sorely missed. But the one thing about Frank, because of the impact he had, those memories will all stay there. I mean, I'm still in my own mind laughing about things that have taken place over the years that I've known Frank.
I mean, Frank, I mean, he would make sure that he got through until you were laughing, you know, type of deal. If he had to adjust and, you know, shift around or do whatever, he would get the job done every time, you know.
He did use humor a lot. I used to call him Frankster the Prankster. Everything out of his mouth, you never know if it was serious or not, and you know, and even if it was serious, probably serious for about 30 seconds, and then he went into his humor mood. When I used to make my rounds to come visit the resort hosts, and Frank was upstairs in the units at the time at Seaside, and I'd get there and I'm like, "Hi, Frank," and he's like, "Hi, Paula, when you leaving?" And I says, "I just got here," and he'd start laughing. No, come back. You want to play foosball? And I'm like, "No, I don't want to play foosball. You want something to eat?" "I don't want something to eat," you know. And he was just funny that way. So just humor is his lifestyle.
Oh, he was hilarious. In fact, he always had lots of one-liners. I don't recall what they were, but you know, no matter what, it came from his heart, and he just wanted you to have a great time when you were there.
You know, it was just him. Everything about him was funny. He didn't have to say, you know, he could tell you the same story that you've heard 100 times, and you would laugh. It'd bring a smile to your face every time.
Oh, he's always been funny. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't old enough to get his humor back then, but you know, anytime you're around him, you know you weren't going to be bored. You know, it's not like he's always entertaining, and taking care of things.
In fact, he used to come over. Like, this is a couple years later, and Tony always has loved him. And he would come over before she'd get home from work. And I remember one time he came over and he said, "I want you to take a picture. Where's Tony's camera?" And so I got Tony's camera. He crawled into our fireplace, and he's all crunched up in the fireplace, and I had to take a picture of him. Promise I didn't tell Tony. So when Tony got her film developed, here was Frank in the fireplace, and she was so mad that he had been in the house and she wasn't there to see him, you know. He just liked to play those games.
I always remember Frank. Everybody remembers Frank. Everybody that's ever met him even once remembers Frank Toohey.
Always, and he always sang me the song. Tell Laura I love her. Tell Laura not to cry. My love for her will never die. He always sang that to me just about every time I saw him.